Hello, everybody, and welcome back to The Tome Travelers. This is episode 9, and we are going to be talking about Empire of the Vampire by Jay Kristoff. We have done it. We have finished the book, and so there's a spoiler warning for pretty much all of the book because we're going to be talking about it. Mainly kind of the last half of it, as that's kind of the sections we read this week, but we're also going to have like a full book discussion and talk about our thoughts on it. So if you haven't finished it or read it, go ahead and click off, read it, and then come back whenever you're done. But before we get into that, as always, we have our fantasy question. Whitson, do you wanna let us know about it?
Yeah, so it's kind of the second part to last week's question, and this week's is your favorite fan theory of a fantasy or sci-fi story. Any story, doesn't have to be a novel. You want to take it first, MD?
Yeah, I'll take it first. So this is
Oh,
one of my
wait,
favorite.
small preface. We're gonna try to do ones that aren't major spoilers.
Right, yeah.
That's the
So,
caveat here.
Yeah.
My favorite theory is that in the Lord of the Rings movies, Frodo doesn't know Legolas's name.
Okay.
And if you go back and watch it, there's only one line in the entire movie where Legolas and Frodo talk, and it's when he says, "And you have my bow." And then there's the scene where, like, after Frodo gets stabbed and he's, like, having the reunion with everyone, he mouths everyone's name, like Gandalf and, like Merry and Pippin or whatever, or Sam. And then Legolas, like, walks into the room and he just looks at Legolas. He doesn't say anything. And so there's a theory out there that Frodo doesn't know Legolas's name.
That's pretty hilarious.
I've seen that movie probably a gajillion times and read the books, and I've never noticed that. Like, well, I don't know how it is in the books, but
Right, it's specifically
I've
for
never
the
noticed.
movies.
Yeah, I've never noticed that that's the only time they talk.
Yeah, it's pretty.
That's kind of wild that two main cast characters could just not interact like that.
Right.
Yeah, let's ignore each other.
Exactly. What about you, Dylan? What do you got?
All right. So I did a book, and then I did my favorite because I thought it was books at first. But so my favorite is that Jar Jar Binks is a powerful Sith Lord. That
Okay,
is
yeah,
that's
my
a
that's a
favorite
good
fan
one.
theory ever. But my favorite book one is that Gandalf wanted to use the eagles the whole time, and that's what he was going to do after they got out of Moria. Once they got to the Misty Mountains, so that's why when they're like leaving and when he's falling, he says, "Fly, you fools," because he's telling them to fly. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
everyone always has a problem with the eagles in Lord of the Rings. Like, why didn't he just use the eagles? And so, like, that's my favorite one from the book.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense.
Dude, the Jar Jar Binks is a Sith Lord one. That is a YouTube video I click on every time it pops up.
Yeah. Yeah.
It kind of makes sense, man.
Yeah.
He be spitting facts.
So my favorite non-major spoiler fan theory is from King Killer Chronicles, and it's that Dinah's patron is actually the Lord in Mare that he plays tack with, Breton. That isn't a huge spoiler, and it'll make sense to anybody who's read that. But yeah, that's
I like that one too.
I don't understand what that means, but I'm
There's
excited
another
to
one about
read
her.
King
There's
Killer
another
Chronicles
theory
at
about
some
her
point.
patron, isn't there?
Oh, so many.
Yeah.
Man,
The Man in
everything
Black.
I hear about that
Man
book
in
just like
Black.
hypes it up, and I can't wait to read it.
You know,
really
I found
good.
out earlier today that Daniel Green does not like those books. And I was
Really?
like, what?
I've heard some really good arguments for why people don't like those books.
You know, they're really
And
flowery. I
yeah,
get why that
well-
would get on some people's nerves.
So one of my saw was like was talking about how like Kavoth really doesn't do anything. And I mean, if you go and read the books, like, yeah, he's doing stuff, but he's really not doing anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but
So,
I
like-
kind of like how he became this legendary figure by like falling ass backwards. Like, it's just fun to me.
Yeah, no, I enjoy it, and like I said, I do enjoy it, and it's probably preference, but I have seen like videos and stuff of why people don't like those books, and that I do agree with. But
Yeah.
I like it for the same reasons in some of them. So,
Yeah, teach their own.
anyways, back to Empire of the Vampire.
Yeah. Well, with our question out of the way, let's go ahead and jump into episode 9 of The Tome Travelers.
All right, so this week we finished parts 5 and 6 to complete the book. In part 5, we see Gabriel as a 16-year-old again. Um, he's out on a hunt with Talon, Greyhound, or Greyhand, and Aaron, and they run into an ancient Voss. Turns out to be the Forever King's daughter, super powerful vamp, and she's like going around making up battle plans for her father so that he can invade. So they intercept the plans and they're rallying and trying to figure everything out to stop his invasion. And then in part 6, we're back on the Grail quest with Gabriel and Dior, and they are having a rough go of it. They're struggling to survive, narrowly escaping Danton. Uh, and then they run into some old friends, and then they finally make their way to their final confrontation with Danton and arrive at San Michon, and some stuff goes on there. So, where we want to start, guys?
Wow.
Well, maybe general sentiment. Like, did you guys enjoy the ending?
Yes.
It opened a lot of questions.
Okay.
I loved this book. I loved this book.
It was a good book.
It really was. It was a fun read.
I'm fiending for the second book. That's supposed to not come out for another year. As soon as I finished it, I texted Matt and Whitson. I was like, "When's the next book coming out?" Fuck, it's a year. But I did really enjoy the book. The ending definitely opened a lot of questions, but I felt like it ended in a really, really good spot.
Right.
Like it wasn't like just a huge cliffhanger to where like you're like, fuck, that sucked because now I gotta wait a year. It was like a lot of it kind of rounded out two very important parts.
Yeah. But it still left you wanting so much more.
Yes.
Right. There's so much more context that we could get in a second book, but like we got the wrap up to San Michon mostly. I mean, he explains the last like 5 years of it and doesn't really tell the whole story there. So there's a lot of room for us to look at stuff.
Though. Yeah, I'm kind of hoping they go into it a little bit.
I'm sure they will.
Yeah.
And then we get the answer finally of what happened to Astrid and Patience.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which I feel like we kind of saw coming. Like, we knew that it was going to have to be something. Yeah.
The way that it happened. Yeah. And whether or not I thought Astrid was still not alive, but I thought she was a vampire and was like legitimately following him.
Right. I was still kind of confused on all that stuff, but part of me was like, you know what, he's hallucinating because he hasn't had his fix.
Was still alive somewhere.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, he had one sober night where he still saw her. So I thought maybe she was legitimately there. It was like in the forest after they escaped over the river.
But then Ash Drinker's talking about later. We hear Ash Drinker talking about how he's going mad, which I don't know what that's from, but it definitely he definitely is going mad. It mentions that.
Yeah.
Or this
grief, I would assume.
Ash Drinker said this way of life leads to madness or something like that.
Yeah.
The Sangire and then his grief over Astrid and Patience.
Yeah, which is definitely understandable, seeing your family killed in that way.
Yeah, well, we can get to the Fabian scene in after we cover San Michon, because I really specifically want to dive into that scene.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about how he's trying to learn how to keep the vamps out of his head, and then they run into Lore. How do you say her name?
Laurie? Yeah,
Lore, which is Fabian Voss's oldest daughter, correct?
Yes, 400 years old.
Yeah, which is while they run into probably one of the strongest vampires alive when he's 16.
Yep.
Yep.
And ultimately fails. We had a long conversation about that scene when they're impersonating house servants and guards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've kind of come around to Gabriel being stupid there.
Yeah. I felt like I defended it very well. Like, I saw where you were coming from, like, because I saw it from the same way. Like, why would you do this? Literally, Talon just said, if you do this, hundreds more will die. But, like, especially, like, reading it, it was like, okay, so I made a vow to Astrid that I would never let another mother go through what mine did, and she reminds me of my little sister or whatever that died. Yeah. And so he's like, I can't let this happen. And then also before that, he's talking to Greyhand, and Greyhand even doesn't want to let it happen. he looks at Greyhand and says, isn't this a sin? And Greyhand's like, well, basically. And at this point, we gotta remember Gabriel is still very religious.
Yeah, and he's 16 and
Yes.
stupid. But I
Right.
just
And very
this
headstrong, and yeah.
yes, yeah. I have come around on it. I don't hate it. And look, I think that at the end of the book, the author stuck the landing well enough to like justify a couple of these small things to me, right?
Hmm.
Right.
Like he really finished it well, and like it was really fun all the way up to that point anyways. So, it was a good book. It was worth reading. But there's two things that I got really annoyed by in the whole book, which is a pretty small percentage. And it was Dior being stupid and Gabriel being stupid. And I just felt like they were too clever and calculated a lot of the time.
I
Well, I mean, Gabriel is reckless a lot as a
Right.
teenager,
He
so
is very, very, very intelligent, though,
Yeah.
yeah, it's
and
just I
so is
felt like
Dior.
there were other ways that they could have made the same decisions but with different motivations, and the story wouldn't have been hurt, and maybe I would have been less annoyed with the characters,
See,
like when characters make bad decisions, I'm okay with being sad for them or angry at them, but like it was just like annoyed, like frustrated that them being stupid was the impetus for the story to move past that point.
right. Well,
Yeah.
see, but my deal is like, and we've had talked about this like for 2 days straight, so we've already got a lot of this out. But and I'll tell you what I told him. My deal is like I feel like they stayed true to character because like they are both very emotional people that let their emotions get in the way of their decisions, and we see it happen multiple times with Gabriel, multiple times with Dior. That it's like, hey, I know this is stupid probably, but I mean, I feel this way, so I'm going to do it anyways.
Well, I will say one of the things, like actually on the page, that kind of justified it to me after the fact was, excuse me, was how like he kept saying like my friends are the hill I'll die on, and I've
Yeah,
forgotten that for so long. Like he kind of opened back up and became a little less jaded towards the end of the story,
right.
and that went a long way to be like, oh yeah, this is an emotional, like kind of romantic type of guy.
Yeah. Well, it also goes into how he gets his Aegis back.
Yeah,
He,
faith in Dior, which
yeah, well,
was
he vows I'll never leave you,
Yeah.
and he's like I'll never leave you, and my faith in you, and so he gets his Aegis back, which I thought was like a huge thing. That was like, especially how we know the book ends, which we can talk about later. But basically, they try to kill Dior, and he saves her, and it's like even though like everyone thinks that killing her will save everyone else, he still makes the decision because he made that vow, and I believe he's using her as kind of a replacement for Patience.
Yeah, that's what I kind of
But
thought too.
yeah, which is also it also feels a little cheap to me. Hmm, I don't
I
know. I don't have that big of a problem with it really, but
yeah,
it's just I don't think Gabriel is. I don't think he could confuse her for patience. I don't think he's that shallow, you
I
know?
don't yeah I don't okay, so maybe I misworded that. Maybe he's not using her not necessarily as a replacement for Patience, but just like he found something to hold on to,
Yeah, he
and
found
like
something that he feels is like innocent and precious.
right, and I
Right.
feel like it was easier to do that with Dior once, especially, and she even mentions that you changed once you figured out I was a girl. I feel like it was easier for him to do that with Dior because it is a younger girl, and he's
Yeah.
lost the young girl that he cared so much about.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean that's just been such a big part of his life too, is his younger sisters and his mom, and like
Yeah,
the women around him have always been important to him. So it kind of that kind of does make sense for his character, for that to be his motivation.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Um,
Well, okay, one of the big theories that we left off with in last episode was that Aaron had set the vampire loose, or
Yeah.
maybe Keva had set the vampire loose.
yeah.
That is not at all what happened.
Nope, nope. I was right about the pregnancy, but I
Yes,
had
you
Yeah,
all the
were right
yeah.
rest.
about the
I
You
had,
pregnancy.
I
really
had
called
all
the
the rest of it wrong.
pregnancy, but
I had all the rest of it wrong.
yeah.
I think it's wild that Talon was drinking blood like that. I mean, he was a
Yeah.
fiend.
Yeah, I mean, he killed the servant girl in DeCoste, and
Oh, was
then
that him? I didn't pick up on that.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Gabriel says, you killed that servant girl while we were busy with the High Bloods.
Oh, I must have like read over that part. I didn't even pick up on it. Yeah, so and that's what Lore fight after to him at the Cost Mansion. She's like, I'd do something to you, but you're already ours. You're already in our control. And so yeah,
Yeah, and that's the reason that he goes after Aaron and Gabriel's because they heard
her say that.
her
Yeah,
say that.
yeah. I thought it was really cool the way he did that scene because like we had bits and pieces of what Talon did, so we kind of knew, but like the way that it all came to fruition, the way that Gabriel handled it, I thought was a really cool way to do that in the book, because like it never spelled anything out and gave us all the information until right at that moment when
Yeah.
we figure it all out, and then obviously Greyhand's listening, and they take Talon out because he tries to kill Gabriel, but.
Yeah, no, I thought that was pretty well set up and like really satisfying too.
Yes, yeah, 100%. And that's what, like, even then you think he's waiting on Astrid, but he's actually got another plan. And uh Talon's been using his powers to look into everyone's minds, even though that's a big rule there, is you can't use your pale blood gifts on other pale bloods. But he obviously does not care.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean, and it's him doing that uncovers Aaron and Baptiste's secret.
Right. Which is how he knows to capture him. Which I think is interesting that he probably knew a bunch of that shit anyways and was just sitting on all of it.
Yeah.
yeah,
He
yeah,
probably knew a lot. He was just waiting for the right moment to.
So it's like he really didn't care about, which, I mean, he's got his own sins to worry about, but drinking blood and killing pregnant girls, but
Right.
yeah.
Kind of weird.
yeah.
Kind of weird. Uh, but yeah, so he was just sitting on all that blackmail, which really means that at that point, he cared more about blood and
Exactly.
his thirst than he
Yeah.
cared about his faith,
And he
which
even
is,
he says that he's when he's dying or whatever, he says to Gabriel, he's like, "You'll see how it is when you get
yeah.
older." And I feel like we can see that uh, in older Gabriel, when he's like
Oh, for sure.
he's fiending for a hit of his pipe, and like he's still like um resisting drinking blood because he promised Astrid as she was dying, but like he still thinks about it a couple times, and he's like,
Yeah.
I would say he's got a very strong will, you know what I mean? So like that's
Yeah.
not something easy probably to deal with.
Yep.
So what do we think about Lore?
Well, I mean, fuck that bitch, honestly, for going to Lorson.
Yeah.
That was
Well, okay.
brutal.
So first they run into her after the Cost Mansion or whatever, and they fight her. She's sending out the white ravens, or not white. She sounds some kind of bird.
It was a white raven, I think,
Yeah,
because that's
Yeah.
the Voss symbol, maybe.
yeah. So she's sending out the ravens with the battle plans on it, and they get in a big fight, and she basically beats the fuck out of everybody. But Gabriel gets his shot in, shoves the bomb, or like pretends to kiss her, and then shoves the bomb in her neck, in the hole in her neck, which I thought was cool, and then saves everybody by dragging them to a church. But
Hmm.
we see Greyhand get his hand, his eye, and his ear. He loses all three of those things at once. Kind of makes him a little salty. And then also he's already salty at Gabriel because he stepped in front of Laura as she was trying to leave, which is what me and Whitson were talking about, of his stupid decision.
Right.
Yeah, so he forswore him as a student, like immediately.
Yeah. Oh, well, tried to kill him,
Yeah,
and Aaron stepped in the way, which I enjoyed how their relationship evolved too.
Yeah.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
one of the
That
things that
was
I was
also
gonna say.
really
Like
satisfying.
at the very beginning, like Aaron was just kind of this, a-hole, but then by the end of it,
Yeah.
he's literally Gabriel's best friend and
Yeah,
is
which I didn't
responsible
see,
for helping
honestly.
Gabriel out a lot of times.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, I didn't see that one coming. Honestly, I thought he was going to be
Like an
a
antagonist.
an antagonist the whole book.
Yeah, he did a really good job of justifying all those changes too.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
It
everything
Like I
comes
wasn't.
to
think that
front.
was one of the more like well done like threads in this book
Yeah,
was Aaron and Gabriel's
and it
relationship.
wasn't like it was like, oh, just kind of randomly like placed, like, yeah, they're like not friends, now they're gonna be friends, but it like evolved really well. Like there were even a couple times like after Gabriel found out Aaron's secret, where Aaron started sticking up for Gabriel a lot more when he was getting bullied by like all the other Pale Bloods or whatever, and so
Yeah, which
Yeah.
I also thought it was funny that when he's getting bullied, they're calling Gabriel a boy lover.
yeah,
And it's right after he finds out about Aaron and Baptiste, and which they've been calling him that the whole book, but it really takes a new meaning when they're calling Gabriel that, and Aaron steps up for him.
But yeah, I mean, even before he knows Aaron's secret, I think, unless I'm misremembering, once he figures out that his dad is an abusive drunk bastard, he has so much more respect for Aaron. And then Aaron also has more respect for him because he's capable and like
Yeah,
has proved himself.
yeah,
So
and has his back.
yeah, and has his back.
Yeah, we see him find out about Aaron and Baptiste being lovers, and he promises them. He's like, "Look, I won't say anything. My brothers are the hill I'll die on."
Yeah, and
And
it also challenges his ideals because he says if somebody in this godforsaken land can have love and good things can come of it, like how is that a sin? It
yeah.
literally changes his perspective of his faith.
right, right,
It's almost one of the things that starts like changing his like faith.
yeah.
Like that, I feel like
Well,
that's one of the crucial moments of it.
yeah, that, and we can talk about what becomes of him and Astrid. He says, literally,
Right.
I'll kill as many vamps as possible. I'll be the best servant you've ever had. God, just let me have her.
Yeah, and then both things are true.
Yes,
I mean, he has her and he is the best of them.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I I don't know. I thought it was interesting, when he asked uh the Empress for uh Astrid to be able to leave the monastery, and she chooses to stay. So it's not one-sided either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think another thing that this book did really well is it's neither a direct indictment of faith or religion or a direct endorsement of faith and
Yeah.
religion.
It's
Yeah,
very
it
gray
balanced it
area
really
the
well.
entire way
Yeah.
through.
Well, I felt like it almost had like normal things that people who are religious go through, like normal problems that like why do bad things happen and all this. And then at the end Gabriel's also like, well, I did get to have all those moments with my family. Like even though I lost them, like I still had the good moments with them too. And so
Yeah.
like I felt like it did that really well too.
Yeah, well, I'm not particularly religious, but I could respect the way it was portrayed in this book. Like he did a really good job of not vilifying faith directly, but like the humans involved in it. But he also wasn't preaching to anyone either.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
it just felt like really, I guess, like honest.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I feel like that's what I was trying to like. I feel like it was honest in the way that it handled his struggle with religion. Like at first, like he's raised up in it, so he just believes in all of it. And then like slowly he starts seeing, okay, he sees um uh Aaron and Baptiste together, and he's like, well, this like why would this be wrong? Like this is a shitty world. And then he loves Astrid, and he's like even though she's a nun, it's like, just give me her. And then like slowly he starts to develop it, and then he gets completely away from religion. And then like towards the end, we see him like, well, I did get, like I said, he thought I did get to have all the good moments. We see him kind of like start rectifying that
Yeah,
and coming
starting
back
to come
to,
to terms with it.
yeah.
Yeah. I think it did the whole topic of it justice. So
Yeah.
Yeah. And then let's see, what else do we have? Oh, he got
The battle
knighted
at the Twins. Yeah, he
oh
gets
yeah,
knighted.
gets knighted
at
by the
16 years old. Gets fully knighted and fully becomes a silver saint,
Yeah,
which I
instead
thought
of
was
Aaron.
interesting.
That was a
Yeah.
little strange that he got to like leapfrog up there,
I
but
thought so too, honestly.
he did kill Lore.
Right.
yeah,
And
That was after
he
the Battle of the Twins, right?
yes. Well,
yeah,
he
Yeah,
killed Lore. He controlled the whole battle. Um, he he was telling it he was basically a commander. So like it makes sense that he'd be a full Silver Saint, but at the same time, it's like I
He
don't know. I
had
feel like that.
just fucked up like a couple
Yeah,
months before
yeah.
and gotten Greyhound maimed,
Yeah,
and
but I feel like they almost had to do something because the Empress was there because they didn't know she was going to knight him. So they were like, "Well, the Empress is here.
yeah.
She obviously likes him. So like maybe we do this." And then because
Well, and I also
he
think
had
that they
both his
just
arm
thought,
tattoos, didn't he?
yes, I
I
think
think you
so.
get. I think he said you get one for completing a hunt and one for killing your first vamp, and then your back piece is when you become a full Silver Saint, I believe. Which, okay, so that kind of doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me either because it's like, why would you not just fully tattoo them up when they become apprentices? Like, what? Like I
I think
understand like
well,
Oh well,
the
it's because they didn't want that. It's the same reason they flayed the silver
yeah,
off before they kicked them
before
out.
they exile
Which,
them, they don't
which,
want
by the
like
way, they didn't do to Aaron or Gabriel, and seemed weird to me, like a plot, like a little
yeah,
plot holy, maybe.
well, okay, so the reason they didn't do it to Aaron is because him and Baptiste left before they went back to the
yeah, they
Oh yeah, that's
basically
they
true.
escaped because they
they snuck
they
off.
left. Yeah, they snuck off like because they left Gabriel and Aaron or Baptiste or whatever while they went to the like all the Silver Saints went to the battle because they needed everyone that they could take, and so then when the battle came to Gabriel, they kind of afterwards they just snuck off because they didn't want to have to deal with it because the
Yeah.
nuns were the ones who let them loose.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Well, they went to Larimore with Gabriel. Like, and as soon as the battle was over, that's where Gabriel went because of what Laura said. And so like they immediately went with him, and then they left from there. So they never went back. And then the
yeah,
reason Gabriel doesn't get flayed, he even says it's because uh he was the Black Lion, the hero of the monastery or whatever. He
oh yeah,
says like because he goes to tell them about how Astrid's pregnant, and he's expecting like, hey, maybe they'll forgive me, but he said they didn't. They kicked him out, but at least they didn't get rid of his Aegis.
Oh, okay, I might have missed that part.
Yeah.
But oh, where I had another point. Um, oh, why
Uh,
they didn't tap them up
yeah,
from the
yeah,
start? Same reason that they said they flayed them because they didn't want them to have that weapon if they weren't like devout.
right,
yeah, yeah. I get. Well, I was gonna say probably like the ceremonial part of it.
yeah.
But
Well,
like
it's all.
just like from my like logical perspective, like to me it makes sense. Hey, we're gonna go fight vampires. Let's get as much help as we can get. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, also
Yeah.
in a sense, like the tattoos or whatever kind of distinguish, like, hey, this is a full fledged member of the Silver Saints. And so, like, I mean, think about all the times where, like, Gabriel, like, when he wanted to get on the
Just
boat or
shows
whatever,
his seven
and he
star.
just shows it,
Yeah,
and they're like, everyone's like, oh, he's a Silver Saint, he can come with us. You know what I'm saying? They don't
yeah,
want an apprentice who gets trained or whatever to be tatted up and then like turns or something or just does something wild to now have that power. They want to make sure that they're fully devoted, I guess.
yeah,
Well, I think they're thinking if they're not fully devout and they like give into the Sangire or something, like the silver also works on the Pale Bloods.
I guess, yeah.
yeah, yeah. That's true. Hmm.
But I mean, it would burn them from inside their skin, you would think, if
Yeah.
they
Yeah,
turned full vamp. I don't know. I don't know why. Just for the
probably just
ritualistic part of it,
yeah.
I guess.
I was gonna say probably just the ritualistic part of it, but like just logically, like I'm like, hey, go ahead and throw some more tats on there, man. You know?
Yeah, armor or no armor?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Armor.
Back to the Empress and Astrid though. So he basically makes a deal with the devil to get that her freedom.
Yeah,
Or
Yeah.
and
I
then
see it as
Astrid
that.
turns it down.
Yeah, but he still made the deal, and I feel like the Empress is really going to use that too. Or I feel like we know she does because like he's at like every major battle, which he
Yeah.
probably should be anyways. But
And seemed
she,
happy to be.
yeah, but she's basically like, I'm gonna run you ragged. Yeah, I wonder why Astrid bothers her so much though. Like I understand like she's the bastard kid, but maybe she
Yeah.
like thinks she's gonna take her crown or something. I don't know.
I don't
I feel like
know.
there's something more to the Empress. Like I feel like there's
I
something
think
there.
so too.
Well, her and Astrid are not like dissimilar ages, right? Like they
Yeah.
could have grown up together.
Yeah. Well, I just mean like in general, like not necessarily between her and Astrid. I feel like the Empress is either up to something, she's part vamp, like I don't know what's up, but
Yeah.
I feel like there's something there, you know? Like I feel like there's a reason she's doing the thing she's doing.
Yeah.
But
Uh,
you wanted to talk about the Battle of the Twins?
um, no, I mean it was cool. The fact that they triggered the avalanche.
Yeah. I like the
His
scene
fight
where
with
they're all
Lore was good.
I like the scene where they're all three fighting and like the horde of undead.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And they're just cutting through all the wretched, and
Dude, which
Fabian
by the
Boss is
way,
like,
the pictures in the book or whatever, there's a picture of that scene where like they're literally getting surrounded by the undead and it's just the three of them. It's so good, dude. I loved the pictures in this book.
The visual, yeah, the illustrations were fantastic. Like if y'all are reading this and y'all don't have illustrations, I think all the books have illustrations, but if you
Yeah.
don't, look up the illustrations because they are beautiful.
Or get a copy
yeah,
of
the
it.
artwork is
It's
great.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the hardcover with all the illustrations and the giant like picture map,
Yeah.
it was like $16 for the hardback.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
not bad. Like I would
Yeah.
expect this kind of this
Which I'm
edition of a
assuming
book to be
everyone that's
like
listening to this has
25.
already read the book, but
Right. Yeah. Right.
Yeah,
but
well, I'm just saying it would look good on
yeah.
a bookshelf.
Well, so
Oh
like
yeah.
my ebook had all the illustrations in it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I figure all the books do, but
Yeah.
maybe not, you know. Okay, so Battle of the Twin. Oh, do we think that so Lore says that she's the one who killed Amelia. Do we believe her or do we think it's dead tongues heated or dead tongues tasted?
I think it's a dead tongues
Yeah, dead
heated or dead tongues
tongues.
tasted.
Yeah.
She would not remember, a 400-year-old vampire would not remember one little girl that she threw into a bog in some backwater 10 years ago.
Yeah.
You know?
I
Like,
agree. I agree. I agree. I think that that would be a little like cheesy. I would agree with
yeah,
you on that one
yeah.
if that was true.
Yeah. It was just
But
kind
yeah,
of
I
a in the
think
moment thing to make Gabriel pissed. So
yeah, because
Yeah, I think
she was
she just
kind of
had
losing at that
her
point.
Voss mental fingers all in his brain and
Yeah.
picked out that his little sister died to a vamp.
Yeah. Which so oh, I had a thing about that boss mental thing, but I forgot. Um, and then so the only other thing I can think of about his younger days is we learn about the Asani bloodline, which is what we think his bloodline is.
Well, still only vaguely though, right?
Yeah.
yeah.
So the quote is, uh, "A broken line of sorcerers and cannibals, damned even among the damned, spit their name from thy tongue, as thou wouldst the blood of pigs, and guard thine own blood, lest thy wrest it from thy veins."
Yeah, so they're famous for sanguimancy, it seems like, and they
Yeah.
do enjoy killing and drinking other vampires, presumably.
Presumably, because it calls them
I mean,
cannibals and stuff.
cannibals, I think they're called carrion also, which I mean
Yeah,
all the vampires are kind of referred to as carrion, but
Yeah.
yeah, but it does it in the blood. Okay, that's something else we need to talk about, like the blood writing or the blood uh, like a magic erase marker
the
that,
invisible ink.
Oh
that
yeah.
I'm assuming only vampires knew about up until this point. So like a vampire wrote that about them being cannibals.
Well, maybe. I mean, I don't know why humans couldn't have known about it. But because Astrid even said that they had
Yeah,
like
they
her
had a
and
different name
friends
for
in
it.
childhood. Yeah, they had a different name for it, but they did it too.
Yeah, but it wasn't with blood. It was with
It was
like
yeah, like
lemons and
lemon
stuff.
juice and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I'm
Yeah,
sure
that's
like
true.
somebody probably stumbled across it, but like
Right.
I'm assuming that all the stuff because even the book they find that in was they said it was written by a vampire and it was written on human skin.
Oh yeah,
Um,
true.
but I'm assuming like the vampires are the ones that use that because it just kind of makes sense, but I could be wrong.
Yeah.
Um,
Do we think that? Well, hang on. We'll get to it at the end of the section about the Grail.
yeah. Okay, so I think that's all the early life part I can think
Well,
of to talk
the
about.
time skip, and then Patience being 11, and Astrid being, um, well, Gabriel and Astrid being older with Patience, and then Fabian shows up.
Right.
That's in the Grail part though.
I mean, yeah,
I
but
mean, we could talk
chronologically, it's
chronologically.
between Sam Michon and the Grail. It doesn't matter to me. I thought that scene was incredible, and if we want to save best for last, like I'm down to do
Well,
that too.
okay, we can talk about it when we talk about when they get to oh what's that? Where Aaron and Baptiste are. because
Yeah.
that's
Okay.
where he admits it to Dior, and I kind of want to talk about why he admits it to Dior and their
Okay.
relationship there. But we do see, so as we know that he's talking to Jean in between the books, and we see him break a glass and get blood all over himself, and Jean's terrified of it.
Yeah. Well, and so I think he thinks like we saw Leith, apparently his little sister, um, with the blood blades and doing all sorts of crazy shit with the sanguimancy.
Right.
And so presumably Gabriel can do that stuff. I mean,
Yeah,
in
or
the
can learn
years
how
between, yeah, because he I mean he apparently killed Fabian, and
at
it's
some point.
sometime after he runs off with Leith and Dior.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I have
So,
theories on how he kills Fabian, but it would make more sense for him to use his power, so my theory's probably wrong. Or a combination of what I think and what you think.
yeah, I
That's
mean Dior's blood on
Yeah, that's
Ashbringer.
what I was thinking. That's what I was thinking was Dior's
Yeah.
blood on Ashbringer,
Mm-hmm.
which is something else I hope we learn more about. I hope we learn more about Ashbringer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Or
I
Ash
was gonna bring that up in my
Ash
where we go from
Ash, yeah, Ash Drinker. Ash
We've,
Drinker.
Man.
we've read too much Stormlight, fellas.
there.
Okay, so let's talk about what's going on with the Grail quest. They're like going through the wilderness, struggling to survive.
Jezebel found them after Red Watch, and that
Yeah,
pissed me off.
it did me too. I've got some
Yeah.
theories. I've got two theories. I think either Laeth, uh, like brought them to him because I
Okay,
think she was following him the whole time. So that's one theory. And
right.
then the other theory is I'm wondering if there's some kind of like relation between his blood and horses because I don't feel like Justice would have been such a good horse because it's not like all those horses were just and he just looked into it. You know what I mean? So I'm wondering if there's some like relationship between him and horses and
Well,
uh,
but I mean that's kind of Chastain territory, right?
Yeah.
yeah.
Like,
But I mean, I don't know. There could just be something
I mean,
there.
to me, in so many fantasy stories, horses are this like majestic, like pseudo magical kind of thing, where they like pick their rider, and
Right.
like the Rashadiums in Stormlight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like horses are just kind of mystical in most fantasy stories.
Yeah, but this horse was just a random Inquisitor's horse he jumped on trying to run away. And like
Yeah,
it's scared of vampires still that like multiple times it runs away from vampires. Like I don't feel
and
like
he even says it's not the Soyosa, the like hunting horses.
yeah.
It's not
So
like the
like
same like start like hardy, you know,
so I
stock.
feel like there's got to be some I feel like there's almost got to be something there with the blood. You know what I mean? If not,
Yeah.
then that's a plot hole or a cheesy thing and like that
I
kind
think
of
it's just cheesy, but I mean, hey, maybe Life did rescue the horse and bring it to them.
yeah. Well,
That
we know
seems
Lice
a
was
little
sitting
far
around.
fetched to me,
Well,
but
we know she's fallen on the whole way, and we know that she was there at the battle where the horse
yeah,
ran off.
but she's also been busy keeping the Inquisitors and Danton off of them.
Yeah,
Like she says that's what she's doing when she's not like, intervening and like actually trying to get him to give Dior up.
yeah, yeah. She's busy.
I
Yeah,
don't know. It doesn't matter that much. It's just I
no,
rolled my eyes
I
so
did
hard
too.
at
Yeah.
I
that.
did too. That's what in our Discord messages he was like. I got there, and I was like, horses. He's like, fucking horses. Yeah, but okay. So they're struggling. We see them. He's We
Well,
just found
first
out
they get
yours a
to Red
girl.
Watch. Yeah, they're on the shore of the river, and I think they follow the river to Red Watch.
Yeah.
Yeah, they run on the
Um,
barge. They get on the barge.
yeah, and then
He's fiending
Dior,
for a smoke like super bad. He's in withdrawals,
Yeah.
yeah,
hardcore.
He's in serious
getting to
junkie
the point where
territory.
he's gonna like give in and kill somebody if he doesn't get some blood in him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yep. Then they get on the barge. They see the guy that is he's
Has
got
a septic limb.
yeah, he's got a septic limb, and Gabriel's like, Dior, don't save him, don't save him,
Don't do it.
and she does it anyways, which is another point. I think she's just naturally a good person because like she couldn't stand to see him
Right.
suffering, and he has a
Which,
wife and kids,
Well,
and
okay, so but it was the fact that she got so like clearly punished for that decision that made me like go, "What the fuck?" when she does it
yeah.
again later.
But like I said, they are two very emotionally driven people, and
yeah.
so like in the moment, all these people are gonna die because of me. Like I'm gonna try to
I
save them.
mean, she's so emotionally driven that, like, even at the end of the book, like, whenever she finds out about, like, the murder plot or whatever, she's like, but it would save them. And Gabriel's like, what do you, no, listen, it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
it's so extremely emotionally driven. So,
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you had a problem with you said you had a problem with her being like a street like living hard on the street and still being that good of a person, but like I feel like she's putting on a mask the whole time. We see her dress up as a boy and like she's acting tough, but like every decision she makes and like a lot of her actions prove the opposite. Like she says fuck people, but she still makes friends. She like trusts Gabriel. She helps the guy. Like she makes multiple
yeah.
like actions that
I mean, but it
just
does
show that
take
she is a
her,
good person.
it takes her a while to trust Gabriel.
Yeah.
Right, right. And she says that's because he's a man too.
Yeah,
Right.
she
But
says specifically that she's had some horrible experiences with men that kind of taint like her impression of them
yeah,
or her trust for like random men.
yeah. But even then she still made friends with Bellamy and Rafa and like
Mm.
really like it tore her up to see them fall. And so I feel like her character is just like deep down, like even though she puts on the face, she's a good person.
Yeah.
But and
Yeah.
then okay, so they're on the barge. They get there and they go to this witch. And I thought it was interesting that they talked about how there's other kinds of magic, which we knew that, but this is the first time we're kind of seeing it and like hearing more about it.
Yeah, it's getting
Um,
like
Yeah.
directly acknowledged.
yeah, and I'm interested into like what all because you would think like with vampires being up like this prevalent, like you would see a bunch of that other stuff too.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, they're afraid of the Inquisition and the Silver Saints too, though.
Yeah,
And they don't have the numbers or the immortality of the vampires.
yeah, that's true. And the witch really wants Dior's blood.
Yeah, for obvious
Gabriel's.
reasons.
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah. She doesn't know that, but she can smell it or whatever. She says,
Yeah.
"I've never smelled anything like your blood." But yeah. And then they run into the Inquisition. Why? Because Dior saved that dude's legs. His daughter turned her in,
Right.
Yeah.
and
And
Gabriel's still fiending.
yep. And then I gotta say the next thing that made me roll my eyes a little bit was Dior just kind of randomly escaping.
Yeah,
She
that was a
says
little
she's got
weird.
the picks in her. She has really wore down boots, and she's got picks hidden in them.
Yeah. I mean, that one didn't make me go, what the fuck? It was
Yeah.
just like, it was a little like, okay.
I do agree. Like I'm assuming they were under lock and key and watch and all that shit. So like
Yeah.
I
I could
mean,
see her getting
Gabriel
out of
is manacled to the walls.
right.
Yeah.
I could see her getting out of her manacles and shit with a lockpick. Like I'm assuming she's decently flexible, like running the like throwing her boots up, getting the pick out, running it. But like
Yeah, and like
as
while
far
the
as like getting
timing,
out of the room,
yeah, and the timing of kind of like her escape, like while it was yes cinematic, it really didn't make much sense because it
yeah,
was like she escapes and then as the servant is like, "Hey, they wanted me to tell you that she escaped," is when she jumps into the room to try and save Gabriel with a
yeah,
sword that she's never swung before. And so it's one
right.
of those things that's like it yes, it
Little
was
a little
cinematic.
convenient.
It was
Well,
very
and she
cinematic,
also
but
yeah, she also had time to go gather supplies in the kitchen and set it to go bag.
yeah, but
Yeah, he even says that she made it this far before she decided to come back
Yeah.
or
So
whatever. And
like
it's like, is she
it
these
it needed to happen.
Inquisitors?
It's the only
Yeah,
thing
it
that
needed
probably
to
could have
happen.
happened at that point, but I do agree it
But
was very convenient.
all those Inquisitors had just slaughtered a whole village of people
Yeah.
and like survived all these attacks from vampires. But then the 16-year-old who's bad with a sword can just cut them down. Like, I don't know.
yeah,
Well,
and
I
then
don't know, bro.
it does say that uh The only one she actually it says she kills though is the one that's got his back to her, and then the chick in the room that it says even though uh Dior's bad with a sword, it's really easy to win with a sword when the other person doesn't have a sword.
Yeah,
So like it kind of justifies it, but at the same time it's like I'm assuming this isn't a huge area. Like how is she getting around all these people? Like there's
right.
being sneaky and then there's being like freaking level 100 Skyrim sneaky. You know what I mean? Like I can
Yeah.
stand in front of you and knife you and you don't know I'm there. But
It was just another one of those things where I'm like, well, that's a
yeah.
little convenient, but whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I didn't even think about that until you just said something. So it really didn't bother me. But like, I going back, I could be like, oh yeah, okay. Got a little lucky there.
Yep.
Uh,
So then they follow the river again, right? They take
well, so
Jezebel. They're getting chased by something.
well, they're trying to make it to the city. But going back to the Inquisitors, we learn about Dior's past. Do we want to talk
Oh,
about that a
right,
little bit?
in Lachance.
I don't even remember where it is.
Oh yeah.
But okay, so
It's Dior's last name, Lachance.
yeah,
Just like well, no, Gabriel's not. Why is hers? I guess because she's a bastard or an orphan.
yeah, that probably makes sense. Well, so
Yeah.
her mom was basically a whore and a dope fiend or some kind of like drug fiend.
Yeah,
Um, and
I
then
think she says opium.
opium. Um, and then she like gets in with this group that uh it's basically a bunch of the kids and they've got like an adult that's like watching over them and doesn't seem like he's that shitty of a guy. He just takes a cut from all of them. But then she falls in love with a girl, and the girl had been assaulted by a priest, and they go to rob the priest, and girl kills priest. Um, but gets stabbed in the process. They go back to the place with all her friends and her overseer guy, and she bleeds onto girl and heals her, and then they all turn against her, which is probably a shitty fucking feeling. But
Yeah.
Yeah, they call her a witch, even though she has no idea how she healed the girl.
yeah,
Yeah.
but then they blame the murder on her, and that's why the Inquisitors are after
Yeah, which doesn't really explain how
her.
she escaped that situation. Oh, Chloe. No, it says
Yeah,
Chloe and
yeah, it's
Rafa
just
found her.
Chloe and Rafa found her and got her out.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, so
Um,
then I never did. I was in the middle of of work when the scene played through. I should have gone back and listened to it again. But when they're getting chased through the
yeah, they're getting
woods,
chased.
what are they getting
Uh,
chased by? Is it
it
Danton?
doesn't. No, it's some kind of. So remember Sayor's or Sorcy or however
Sorshi, yeah.
however you say her name, the chick with the mountain lion. She said, "Don't go to this area because it's overrun with
Oh, right. The
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 darkness
Last of
shit."
Us like mushroom sickness.
Yeah. Um, and so they go through there anyways, and like right when they're about to get out, the it says a bunch of like I think it says like animals joined together with like weird like basically like some kind of like weird uh plague looking thing of different animals comes after them, I believe is what it says.
Okay. Kind
But
of
it
like the
doesn't really
deer that like split apart and
yeah, yeah. But it doesn't really like go into like a whole lot of information, which I'm kind of assuming it'll get to that because I'm assuming that I don't feel like it would give us uh that like that those people like that her her you know what I mean like her
no, no, I
Mhm.
don't.
like her people her it talks about how they are after getting rid of this plague.
Cereris's people in the
Yeah,
mountains.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
I
don't know.
gotcha.
Yeah,
I
but
don't
basically,
remember what
I
their
don't
like
feel like it would.
subculture was called, but
Yeah, I don't feel like it would bring all that up. Um, to just kind of leave it there. I mean, it might, but I'm assuming at some point they're gonna run into them, or might even bring up Sourcey like, "Hey, I was friends with her," and then they might get their help or something. Um, that's kind of my theory on that. But I'm assuming we'll circle back to that. And we'll learn more about it. Is what I'm saying, basically.
right.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then they get out of there and they make it to the keep where we see Aaron and Baptiste again.
Yeah, which was a really cool set of scenes. Their reunion was really
Yeah.
Yeah,
touching.
yeah,
Seeing that Baptiste and Aaron have been like thriving out in the wilds.
yeah. Well, I'm surprised they were so close to
Sam
uh
and Sean.
Tim and Sean too, though.
Yeah, I mean, not really. It was such a huge part of their life that it kind of makes sense. But I don't
Yeah,
know if they needed to be like afraid of the Silver Saints. But
yeah,
it didn't seem like it. Like it seemed like Greyhand like knew that they were near and like traded things with them from time to time and kind of didn't really care.
yeah,
Yeah.
right. And basically they were the leaders of the town. Cost was like the mayor or something. The
Yeah,
I
well
don't know.
they built the fort up and then the town kind of formed around it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Was what
Which
it
makes
seemed
sense because
like.
they've got like one of the best blacksmiths, and then Cost was a nobleman, but he's also a silver saint, so he can defend the place. Like it makes sense for them to go there. It'd be a safe place to stay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Um,
they, Baptiste uses engineering skills to like beef up the walls and get like
yeah,
silver bombs and black ignis,
Yeah.
and like they have a cistern of holy water and like all these defenses.
yeah. Well, and we learned that a lot of the cities have fallen now. Basically, like Voss is heading straight to is trying to get to like the main capital of the empire, but he skipped
Yeah.
over San Michon. It seems like he skipped over this place too. So maybe like not worth it. I don't know.
Yeah, probably just not worth it to him. I mean, Saint Jean would be hard for him to take because it's sacred, right? Or
Yeah.
so like sacrosanct or whatever the word they used was.
Yeah,
Um,
and up on top of a fucking mountain or whatever.
yeah, and then they still can't enter without invitation. But I mean, they can tear the walls down and then, oh, look,
Yeah.
it's not enclosed anymore. But
Yeah.
they can't enter without invitation, and the walls at this place are apparently still really good. So
Yeah. Well, so we skipped over that in talking about in part 5 in his younger days when Lore destroys Lorson Village. We see that there's sacred ground and she can't enter, and so she just burns it down.
yeah, that too.
Yep.
Uh, but I
And we
don't
think
know if I feel like almost all of Saint Michon would be sacred, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I'm talking about just everything in general, like this village in general. Like when Danton's talking about going to it, I wonder how easy it would be to do fire. Which also though, vampires hate fire, and so I'm interested to like they probably don't want to use it if they can you know
Well,
avoid it.
The Voss can survive fire though.
They it says they can, but it didn't seem like it was like a for sure thing. It was like maybe for like a second, like they're not gonna like burst in flames like other vampires will. But
Right.
yeah. But and they use thralls a lot. You could tell that, especially with Lore. Lore had thralls, like mostly thralls. So, but
Yeah, which
talking
their
about
mind control thing makes that, I guess, particularly like
yeah,
enticing for them.
yeah. Talking about
Or
Lorson
just
Village
easier, maybe.
though, we see a corpse that he thinks is his sister, and another one that he thinks is his mother and his stepfather.
Yeah.
But
I think he's pretty certain that it's his mom and his stepdad.
Yeah.
well, but he said that the mom was stretched out like she was trying to get to the person that he thought was his sister, but then we find out that it wasn't actually his sister. So that makes me almost think like, I wonder if the mom was actually like trying. Hmm.
I don't know.
Mm.
I
We'll
don't know.
talk
I
more
haven't
about
thought
that when
about
we
that.
get. Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
talk more about that when we get to Lithe. But okay, so back to Aaron and Baptiste. We meet them, they party, and then this is where uh, Gabriel goes to the church and is basically like asking God why, and Aaron walks in and is like, "So where's Astrid and Patience? You wouldn't have come this far north if they were alive." Is basically what he says.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then so Dior's listening that whole time, and they have their moment where she's like basically forcing him to face reality because we figure out he's been basically hallucinating and pretending like they're still alive. And then she's like, "Where are they?" And he's like, "Well, they're at home." And she's like, "You mean they're buried at home?" And he's like, "Yeah,
Yeah. And then he goes into the actual scene with with Fabian and all the Voss children, all the princes of
Yeah,
forever.
yeah. So a lot we assumed that Danton was the only one that found him, that he hunted him down and maybe attacked him, but that is not what happens at all.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, I I figured that Fabian would have just made the order, like made the
Right,
call, go kill them.
right. But he personally went with all his children. That shows how much maybe I don't know about respect, but like it was worth
Hatred.
it was worth his time, you
Well,
know.
and
Yeah.
then his point at the end where he's like, "I would
Oh,
have
I loved it.
forgiven you
Uh,
if you
No, no, no.
if
Time
you
out, time out.
hadn't."
He goes. What was your sin?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then he goes through all the sins, which Gabriel thinks it was uh oh, what was the first one he said?
Pride
It,
was the first
pride.
one.
Yeah, pride, and then lust, and then uh uh
I
pride,
don't.
lust, wrath,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then
Roth.
he goes into what you were about to talk about if you want to talk about it.
Sloth, and he explains that if he had just been there as the challenge to Fabian that he was before, he would have forgiven him for killing Lore. But because he's slunk off to live this peaceful, happy life, he had to come fuck with him. And
Yeah,
it was
which I
just
thought was a
so
wonderful. Yeah,
it was so chilling, and like you could like Gabriel is pig-headed and like fearless, and he is shitting his pants. That
Yeah.
scene was just perfect.
yeah.
That scene was so
And
good.
the one thing that like wasn't like he never thought about because he's like, surely they don't mind that I'm not fucking their days up anymore. But the one thing he was like okay with, and it's just like, no, it's sloth. I like it though. Like I like when so like the girl's out past her curfew or whatever, and then he hears a knock on the door, and he says as soon as he hears the knock, he knows what's going on.
Yeah.
And then he opens the door, obviously, and he sees Voss there, and all the children behind him, and Voss is like, "Let me in, and I'll let her go." And Gabriel in his head is saying the law, dead tongues heated or dead tongues tasted,
Yeah.
and as soon as
But
he
he
said
does
it,
it
he
anyways.
doesn't care. He's like, "If you'll let her go, you can come in." And then we see them go through their whole exchange. And then he's like, "You promised you'd let her go," and Voss says, "Oh, I will," and throws her. And
Yeah.
it doesn't really explain how she dies, but I'm assuming he throws her hard enough to kill her.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, um,
And then he chunks him down through the floorboards and kills Astrid and
and assaults her.
yeah,
Danton
all
says,
manner
yeah,
of
yeah,
shit.
yeah. Danton
Um,
says he raped her or whatever.
yeah, and then chunked her down through the floorboards to lay with him. Leaves Ash Drinker on him to say, if you want to get your revenge, come
Yeah,
fucking
come get
kill
me.
me.
Which is another fucking I thought was just the way that whole scene was handled because it was like so because you quit, I'm gonna give you another reason to come give me entertainment. And does it in the worst way possible, and then gives him his sword and says, "All right, your turn to come try to do something."
Yeah. The fact that we know that he dies is the only thing that got me through that scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Because
so
it's
like,
so brutal. I mean,
yeah,
fucking brutal. I mean, it's really well written, and I'm like, that was one of the highlights of the book for me, but god damn, was that
yeah.
brutal.
Well, and then we see that Astrid comes back or whatever, and he sucks her blood, or drains
Oh,
her.
that was like almost I think that might have been the worst part of it. The fact that he
Yeah.
had to put Astrid out of her misery
Yeah.
after all of that. Like,
Yeah.
And then
oh
makes a vow to
God.
never drink blood again, which we saw his. That's why he's been avoiding it. Why he didn't drink from Chloe before that fight. But
Yeah. And then he gets pissed at his sister
yeah,
later on.
and then Danton. We see that Danton thinks that he's dead. Thought he was dead the whole time because he figured he'd just kill himself.
Yeah, well, and we know that he's tried and can't.
Yeah, he can't. But
Yeah.
yep. And then that scene ends, and we see because of that him telling Dior that we see them get a lot closer, and their relationship kind of like fully come up, and he's basically like coming into like I'm gonna protect her, and they're becoming friends. He calls her his friend, I believe, at that
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
And
Uh,
then Danton comes a knocking.
yep. Yep, and he's got what 12 high bloods, him and an army of undead, I believe,
And Rafa's tortured corpse as a vampire.
as a vampire.
I don't remember the exact description, but like he was like missing limbs and shit, right?
It said it had taken him a couple days. You could tell it had taken him a couple days to come back from the dead.
Well,
Which
I thought it said that his corpse was like mangled. Like he was
yeah,
carrying him in a bundle or something.
yeah, he was chained up
Oh, okay.
because
I
he was the
misheard that part, I
yeah
guess.
he was a
I thought he
wretched.
had done some awful shit to him.
Yeah, he was a wretched, and so he chained him up. So I guess, so he didn't have to go look for him in the other arm, the rest of the army. I don't know, but I figured something like that was going to happen when he drained him, because he's the only one he drained. Everybody else he like ripped out or something like that, but he drained Rafa, so I figured Rafa was going to come back. But I think that was kind of the thing that like fully was like he's talking about how he's going to burn everybody and or kill everybody and take all their daughters and send them out and hunt them one by one, and um so I think that affected Dior a fuck ton. But I think seeing Rafa and seeing like we've done this before, my friends died, there's one right there that got turned into a vampire, like I'm not going to let this happen again. I think that was her straw, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, it was shitty to me that like we had just had the scene where she learns what Gabriel's investment is and like why he does what he does and why he's doing what he's doing. And man, I don't know. She's so clever sometimes, and the same thing with Gabriel, and like that just felt like a monumentally stupid decision
Yeah.
for somebody who's as clever as Dior is often.
Yeah. But I mean, how
I
many
get
times have
I
you
get
yeah,
it, but it's just
yeah.
that was another one of those moments where I'm like, God
I
damn,
know I
why?
consider myself a decently intelligent person, so like, maybe I can see it more. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I'm sure everyone has though made those decisions. It was like that was absolutely stupid of me. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
But it's like, but it's what I was feeling at the time, and it felt
Yeah.
like, yeah,
yeah. Well, so she gets a team of sled dogs and is running up the river. Um, we have this like fight scene where
Well, I
Gabriel
thought she
catches
had a
up to
good
her
plan though. Like, I thought she had the good plan with the
with the
uh
maggot trap thing.
yeah, the maggot trap thing. And then
Well, but then they're still up against 12 High Bloods and Danton.
yeah,
And
and then
Lythe shows
Light shows
up.
up. Well, Gabriel gets his Aegis back. We see him vow to always protect Dior and says, "Hey, I'm gonna believe in you." And then his Aegis lights back up.
Yeah, which was really cool. That was
Yeah,
a
I thought
really
that was
cool.
a really good way, because I've been wanting him to get his Aegis back this whole time, but I didn't think it was gonna happen because I didn't think he was ever gonna start believing in God again. But we see it's kind of based off like faith and something,
Belief and
belief.
yeah,
Yeah.
faith
Yeah.
doesn't really
Um.
have to do with the particular religion, it seems like. Or maybe it
So
does. Maybe the fact that Dior has the
Yeah, I was
blood of the
gonna say
Redeemer
like
may
because
like mean
Dior's
something.
yeah.
yeah, that's true. I didn't think about that, but yeah, that makes sense. So let's kind of talk about, skipping ahead a little bit. Let's talk about Lythe here first. So we find out that she is Gabriel's sister, Celine or Celine or whatever, right?
Right.
Yep. The
But
Hellion.
when she shows up here, which we don't know it's his sister yet, but when she shows up here, um, she says something really interesting to me, especially after finding out that it's his sister, because his sister's only been dead for what, uh, 5 years? No, 10 years, something like that.
No,
It's
like 11 years,
yeah.
12 years.
He was in there for 5.
Oh yeah.
He's
So
32. He was 16, so 16 years. She's
yeah.
been dead for 16 years. Probably no, 15 years. I believe it actually says 15, I believe. Um but she's been dead 15 years. Well, so she has this quote. She shows up, and Danton asks, "Who are you?" And she said, "We knew, or we are Lithe." And he goes, "Do you know who my father is?" And she says, "We knew Fabian, knew him way before you did, knew him before he laid claim to his hollow crown." Um, and so like, and then she always says we. She says we and
Yeah.
us. So I'm wondering if there's multiple souls in this body. Like what is up with this? Because we know at least part of it is Celine, right? Unless that's a fake. Dead tongues heated or dead tongues
Don't
tasted.
taste it, yeah. Or is it
But
like a?
Well,
Could it be
she's
like a
got a lot of
hive mind thing?
information and well, she's got a lot of information. She's got the same bloodline as him.
well, the way that she's talking to him after she rescues him makes me think that like she's figured out whatever the secret was to his bloodline. The
Right.
what I
I'm
forget what it's
wondering.
called. But like they're cannibals, right? So if she's eating other high bloods, maybe that's what's happening.
Oh, I didn't think about that. So
Like she's absorbing their essence or something.
maybe she ate a powerful old high blood. Hmm.
I don't know. That's just where my brain goes. Like her
Yeah.
cannibalizing people maybe unlocks the sanguimancy, and like his bloodline just has it naturally.
Yeah.
But they practice cannibalism to unlock it in the first place. I don't know. That was
So
just my
my
theory.
idea was, well, I don't actually have an idea for the Wii thing and like how she apparently knew Fabian. Like I don't understand how she could be that old, and because it even says Dan's afraid of her because of how old he feels she is.
Yeah,
So like, I don't understand. Maybe it'll go into like a magic thing off that, but we do think at least part of life is Celine, right?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I almost have a theory that the and this might be completely wrong, but I almost have a theory that the half vamp dad came back and had
Yeah, that was the other
Celine.
thing I was thinking.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That yeah, that maybe she kept fucking around with the half-blood dad.
yeah,
But then if Gabriel's dad had known that, he would have beaten Celine too.
yeah. But I mean, maybe they hid that one better because
Yeah.
the signs don't show up in daughters. It said, but what if the
Yeah.
daughters become a vampire?
Right.
Oh, and then she would have the blood still.
Yeah, she's still got the blood in her, the bloodline in her, and she's also got the vamp now. So like it would activate the bloodline.
Yeah. And she would have Voss. She would be Voss and his bloodline.
Yeah.
Yeah, which
Right.
would
So
be
she would be an
explain her
Iron Heart
strength.
with sanguimancy.
Yeah. And but my deal also is like I feel like almost that there's got to be somebody teaching her this stuff, and so I'm wondering if like she knows the dad, like
I
maybe like
I really
she,
think that she is like Legion somehow. Like
you think so?
there's going to be some system whereby which she is like part of a hive mind or
Well,
like
that's what I was saying earlier. Like, because she's speaking in wheeze and everything. I said like it's like a hive mind thing.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's what I'm thinking because I don't
hmm.
think she would say that she was that old and feel like she was that old if she wasn't part of some like larger creature or collection of creatures or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
hmm. Something that hopefully the next book will answer,
Oh
and
yeah.
Yeah, hopefully.
that's kind of where it left us too. With
Well, I mean, there's that, but then there's the almost sacrifice of Dior with
yeah,
Chloe.
yeah,
Yeah.
uh,
Well, we
but
didn't really get into Danton dying.
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
I was just saying like we kind of get those two things settled. I just meant like at the end of the book, like there's one of the biggest questions we still have is like her story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, okay, so Danton dying. Let's talk about that real quick.
Man, him bringing Ash Drinker with Dior's blood on it. Well, no, Dior stabbed him
Yeah,
with
so
Ash
Dior's
Drinker with her
bleeding.
blood on it.
Yeah, Dior's bleeding and the blood just happens to run on the blade. Um because Danton throws it to the side. He throws Ash because Gabriel stabs him or something, right? Like
Yeah,
breaks
and it
through
gets
it.
stuck in him.
Yeah, it gets stuck in him, and so Gabriel gets thrown down or whatever, and he pulls it out and throws it to the side. Well, Dior's still there. She picks it up, and he's obviously focused on Gabriel. Gabriel just stabbed him. She comes up behind him. The blood's dripping onto the sword, and she stabs him.
Yeah, and then he just burns from the inside. That was
But
pretty
didn't
cool.
didn't Gabriel also have his hand around his throat?
Yeah.
I think he was burning him, but not fast enough. Like Danton was gonna he
Gonna
was
kill him?
dodging the hand before that. I don't know if he ever actually got his hand on him.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I
And
remember
then
him saying that he was like he told Gabriel like learn a new trick
yeah.
while he
Right.
was like dancing away from him.
Yeah. But yeah, Dior stabs him with the blood, and it is very effective.
Yeah.
I don't even think the armor or his like stone skin stopped it. I think she stabbed him in a spot that, or did she stab him in the hole that Gabriel had already made?
Uh, I think she just stabbed him straight through the chest.
That'd be interesting. That would be a way to get past the stone skin if that's how that works. But
Yeah. Yeah, if her blood can just straight up nullify their stone skin. Well,
but
I think it just calls them iron hearts.
Danton's finally dead, and that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we see Lythe fighting all the other ones, and she's winning against like 12.
12 high bloods.
Yeah. So I'm interested to see if her and Gabriel fight at some point because I'd be a little scared.
Mhm.
Yeah, I
But
mean, if she's stronger than all these high bloods, like you would think that she would just mop the floor with Gabriel.
yeah. But then they handle that situation and they get in a standoff and Lythe's like give Dior to us. She's
Yeah.
only safe with us.
As a
And
cadre of Silver Saints rolls up.
yep. And then the Silver Saints roll up and Gabriel's like, "Well, what could go wrong here?"
Mhm.
And we go to San Michon. We see Greyhand again. We see that Chloe's still alive. Um, Greyhand's got a new birdie, new bird to chew, and yeah,
And then Gabriel figures out that
What's
they're
going on?
trying to
Yeah.
kill Dior, and
Which which by the way, like this all happened within the last 10 like pages of the book. And so like as I'm going through and I'm reading this, I'm like this revelation happens and I'm like, how is this thing going to end? Like I'm literally sitting here like freaking out like are they going to leave this on like some massive cliffhanger? Like I don't know what's going to happen.
oh
And
yeah.
so
So it would have been wild if they'd ended when he got his throat cut and then
I would have
fell
been
off.
so upset.
Yeah,
yeah, that would
I
have
would
been
have too.
insane.
Yeah. But okay, so he finds out, and then he tries to go warn her, and like I said, they cut his throat and push him off. They give him an honorable death, or what they consider honorable.
Yeah, well, they
Which,
force the red right on him,
yeah,
Right.
basically.
yeah. And then we see that this is when we learn that Lythe is Celine or whatever, and we learn that she can put blood back into people, so she's got a really like strong sanguimancy.
Yeah, and she straight up just like feeds him some of her blood, and it kind of brings him back from the brink.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um.
And then he climbs back up the cliffside,
Oh, that's what it was.
and
She didn't put the blood back in him, did she? She just fed him her
I don't know.
blood.
Yeah, I don't. If it said that, I don't remember it. But
Okay. Yeah, yeah, but he said her blood was like the strongest thing he's ever had. It gave him the strength to climb up the mountain all the way.
and then completely fuck up 4 full blown Silver Saints.
Oh, and it's a badass scene too. He walks into the armory, gets laced up, pulls out two fucking uh silver swords, walks like kicks the church door open from the death door or the yeah, I think that's what it called. Like
Yeah,
everyone else
yeah,
walks,
yeah.
yeah, kicks it open, and everyone's like, "What the fuck?" And he's like, "All right," kills like 4 silver saints with all the nuns shooting at him, and
Yeah.
Chloe trying to finish a spell. And then
Yeah.
I figured there's
And
gonna be like,
silver bombs the nuns.
yeah,
He
Yeah.
straight up throws 2 hand grenades at a bunch of nuns.
yeah. I thought there was gonna be some banter between him and Chloe, or like some explanations or nothing, but nope. He just walks up and stabs her.
Facts. That
Yeah.
so much, dude. There was so much in that last like 10 pages.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, it like she says this needs to happen or whatever, but like that's all she says, and then he's like, "Well, we were friends." Stabs her.
Yeah.
But and then Dior saves Dior, and he's like, "Hey, it's gonna be all right."
Yep. And then she asks, but would it save them? He's like, doesn't matter, really.
Doesn't matter. Not
Yeah.
especially not now that I've killed everybody and burned the book. So he burned the book with the ritual in it too.
Right.
Yeah.
Which okay, that's what I was going to ask earlier. Do we think that that ritual was bullshit anyways?
Yes,
Yeah.
100%. I feel like it was like just in case, like they did with the maps. Like I feel like it was like, hey, just in case
Right.
they figure this shit out, like they'll get rid of their only chance. And Celine even
Right.
says she's like, that's bullshit.
Yeah, she
Which she
says
might
if
have her own.
you
She might have her own shit going on too. You know,
right, she
she
could
don't
have
know.
ulterior motives. Dead
Yep.
tongues he did, or dead tongues
Yep.
tasted.
Hmm.
But she says that if they kill Dior on hallowed ground, then like no ground will be hollowed. She
Yeah.
she was implying that like if you fuck up the Redeemer's basically the Redeemer's child or like the Redeemer's great 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 granddaughter on hollowed ground, like it's over. You
Yeah.
can't hide from these motherfuckers anywhere if you do that shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then we pop out and it's the end of the first day
Yep.
of
In the
John
first
and
day.
Gabriel recording his history.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Jean's about to leave. Gabriel wants a smoke real quick. He's like, "Yo, hit me with that pipe, bro."
And then fucks him up.
Yep. Gabriel reaches for the pipe and then gets his hand around him and is basically about to kill him. And then the thrall come in and distract him for a second, and then John turns into rats.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
they a handful of them managed to like squeak out under the door.
Yeah, and then we see they go up to the ceiling or something. There's bars on the ceiling or something. He go and John's up there like basically like breathing for his life. Like you can tell he's fucked up. And Gabriel like leans back, packs a huge bowl of silver or of Sanctus, and is like just showing you what, or basically like can't
Yeah.
blame me for trying. Yeah, he says can't blame me for trying.
Yeah, and while he's burning him alive, he's just or burn it. Well, he's dead, but while he's burning him, he's like, "I told you I'd make you scream."
Yeah. Oh, he asked him. He said, didn't I ask you, or you never answered me? Were they locking you in here with me, or me in here with you, or you in here with me?" And then grabs his throat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
A
a
lot of
really fun, cheeky way to end it.
Yep, a lot
Yeah.
of epic moments. And then the last or the epilogue is just it basically like a it was basically the same thing as chapter one, but
Yeah.
instead of sunset or whatever, it was dawn, and then it was talking about how he's watching the sun and um, hitting the pipe, and it was basically just like an ending. But
Yeah. It was like the camera pan out moment.
yeah, and it was
Yep.
basically echoing like I said, the first chapter talks about how he misses Astrid's kiss, and then um, he said, we wonder what's next, and he runs his hands or his fingers across his hands, and he says, "Patience."
Yeah.
Yep.
So, do we have any like predictions on what the next book is going to entail, or at least answer questions we want answered in the next book? So,
Life. I just want a lot more about
Yeah,
life
yeah,
yeah.
me too.
and the
I don't.
bloodline.
I almost feel like next book we'll see what happens to Voss. Like they'll go on a quest to kill Voss and all that, and then I feel like maybe the third book, because I believe there's supposed to be three books. I believe the third book might be um him escaping the prison and him figuring out how to stop the day's
Day's
death.
death.
So I feel like the next book will still be in the past, and then the third book will be in the present.
Okay. Yeah. The main thing that I want to find out more stuff about is number one, his sword, and then number two, like his father, because I think that's
Yes.
a
Yeah.
bigger, or that will be a bigger plot point in like a future book.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, his bloodline definitely.
I feel like
Life. The how he kills Fabian.
Yeah.
yeah. I feel like a lot of the dad stuff's gonna be answered with life. I
Yeah.
feel like
Yeah.
that'll all be next book. He'll learn how to use his Sanguine, see a little better. He'll learn about life. I feel like life will probably betray him at some point. He'll deal with her, and then also deal with Voss. And then, like I
And
said, I feel
somehow
like
he loses Dior.
yeah. Well, we
It
don't really
says that
know
the
what happened.
Grail shatters.
Yeah, it
Like,
says the cup is broke, but I don't know what that means.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe Dior
Um,
gets turned into a vampire.
ooh. Well, no, because as soon as they would try
Ooh.
to drink her blood, they'd die.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if they kill her, then she might return.
I think they got to drink her blood.
No, it's random. It's anybody who dies.
Really?
I
I,
think. I think
I
that's
thought
what
it.
it
I thought it
said.
was. I thought it was blood. They had to be like drained, and then it was random after that.
Yeah, I think it was random after they get drinked, or after
Yeah.
they drink.
Huh, okay. I thought any of the dead could rise.
But no,
I could be
we'll have
wrong
to
about
see.
that
We'll
though.
have to see till the books come out. But I think that would be a really good way to do it. Like next book's boss, and then
Yeah.
maybe like some past tales. Like maybe he goes like back in his head about shit that happened, and then the third book would be the present and him like stopping Day's death.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good way for it to go. I mean, I'd be satisfied.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, y'all want to get into your ratings?
Yeah. So, as always, we do 3 categories: characters, setting, and plot, and we do it on a scale of 10. So Dylan,
I
you
want
want to
y'all to
start?
go first.
Oh,
I
okay,
want y'all to
okay.
go because I feel like I'm gonna be like way too. I don't know.
In
I feel like maybe
depth,
I'm gonna
or
be too generous or
oh,
generous.
yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I'm gonna rate it really high, and I want to see what y'all think first.
Um,
Okay.
I mean, I guess I'll go first then. For characters, I liked, like all the characters in this book or whatever, but personally, I didn't feel like super attached to any of them. Like, and so, I'll probably give characters probably like a 5 or a 6. I'm gonna say 6, just because like I felt like there were moments where characters did stupid things and like it just wasn't. I didn't feel attached to them or that they were like real enough to me all the time, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep, I'm in the same camp for characters. I think I'm going to go a little bit lower, but with the caveat that Gabriel is usually a really fun character to be with and like a
Yeah.
good narrator. And like Dior had moments where I really liked Dior. The villains were scary. Um,
And
a lot
all
of the
I feel like I,
threads of
yeah.
characters were very satisfying, especially like Aaron and Baptiste's storyline and how that was handled. I thought was pretty tasteful and like yeah. So there were good things, but like it was also very pulpy and like
Yeah.
almost comic booky, where it's not like I just never felt that invested.
Invested.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna say like a 5 on characters.
So I agree 100% about not just being overly invested, but it's kind of hard for me to rate it because so like I loved all the characters. I mean maybe not all, but most of the characters that come to mind, I felt like they were all unique. They all had like their own little uh like trait. Like so like Talon was like an asshole, the same as Greyhand, but like he was like a conniving ass, a sneaky asshole, like read your mind and like walked around with his cane and stuff. And then Greyhand had like the animals, and then Aaron was like the noble born son that we think's just a prick, and then we find out about him and Baptiste, and like even the vampires, like they all kind of have their own quirks. Like Danton loves hunting girls, and then like Lore loves bathing in blood or likes kids. Like we see her around the whole way drinking kids' blood, noble kids' blood. And then I loved Astrid and um, Dior and Gabriel. I thought they were amazing characters. So like I love the characters, but I do agree with not just being overly invested in them. Like with some books I read, I'm like, if anything happens to this character, like I am
Yeah.
going to like quit reading this book.
This is getting a DNF if it
Yeah.
kills
Yeah,
this character.
yeah,
Yeah.
100%. And
Yeah.
like I felt like the only one I was really like about that like mostly with was Gabriel, but even then I was just like, eh.
Yeah.
It wasn't, yeah. So even though I really love the characters. I love their personalities. I love how unique they all are. But I wasn't invested. So like I really want to give it like a 7,
Okay.
but
I mean,
maybe like a six
I
and a
don't think
half.
there's anything wrong with that. Like if this book is to your taste and these
Yeah.
characters are to your taste, then that's totally
Yeah,
fair.
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think you
10
were
would be
totally. Oh,
10
go
would
for it.
be like like I said, if this person dies, DNF, and then like 9 is like, oh, I love this person, I'm gonna cry, and then 8 would be like, um, oh, I'd be upset, and then 7's like, I love these characters, but
Whatever.
Yeah, fair
yeah.
enough. Fair enough.
So I'd give them a 7.
All
All
right.
right. Well, what about the setting? How do you feel about the setting, MD?
Setting. I really enjoyed it. Like, I thought the world was very interesting. Um, this is actually like my first vampire book that I've ever read, and so, um,
Really?
yeah, really, I didn't read the Twilight books. I didn't read, any of other stuff. So,
Stark to Freak
Cirque
or
du Freak, yeah, none of that. So I was genuinely like intrigued by it, but it wasn't something that was like so standouty to me. You know what I'm saying? So I'd probably give the setting like a 6.5.
okay. All right. Well, this is one of the areas where I'm going to be a little more generous, I think. I thought the setting was really cool because, like, the fact that the impetus for the whole thing is Day's death, and then vampires suddenly don't have to fear the sun anymore. That's a cool twist on the like vampire trope to me. Um, the mushrooms and potatoes and the blight on the forests and the fact that it's colder and winter is like most of the year now and the rivers freeze in their beds. All that stuff is really cool to me. And like it's not that the world is like this vibrant, like rich thing. It's just so totally dreary and dreadful, but it's still like fleshed out. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it's not
Yeah.
it's not a world I'd want to live in, but I totally
There's
can
a reason you
imagine the
wouldn't
world.
want to live in it. Yeah.
Yeah, I can totally imagine all these settings. And like, the way people are like cram packed inside of anything with walls that can keep the vampires out and how like it's just a bleak wasteland with all these wretched in it besides. And so yeah, I thought the setting was really cool. I'm gonna give it like a 7.5.
Okay.
Yep. I agree with everything Whitson just said. I felt like it was like I felt the creepiness of it. I felt one thing that I really loved was like it was talking about how um since the Whitson kind of brought it up with the potatoes and the mushrooms, but since it explains it since Day's death happened, they had to change all their crops. Like, and I thought like including that because that's obvious. Like you can't grow the normal crops like you could if you had sunlight, and so like that's why he's having to eat potatoes all the time and mushrooms and stuff. I thought adding like just explaining that and shit was really cool and keeping that consistency. I felt like it was very very consistent throughout the entire book. Felt like it was creepy. Um, and I really like saw some of these places. Like I saw the San Michon, like the huge the church and all that. And
Yeah, and like the massive plateau that it's sitting on and like all that.
yeah. And then
Yeah.
when it's describing the so they're at uh when they do the Battle of the Twins or whatever, and it's talking about the two statues that are there. I'm sure whoever's seen Naruto knows the two statues. But that like
Yeah.
that's what I got in my head, and like I'm sure it probably didn't look like that, but uh I really enjoyed the setting. I'd probably give it an 8, 8.5 almost.
Okay.
Totally fair. Okay, what about the plot, MD?
I thought it was, good. It was definitely intriguing, and like I really liked the pacing of this book. Like it didn't feel slow, and it didn't also feel like rushed or whatever. Um, but I also wasn't like as like super invested into like this plot as I have been in other stories. So I would probably give the plot like a 6 as well. I'm kind of sticking like with
Oof, that one
the
hurts me a little bit.
with like well cuz like overall, like, don't get me wrong, it's a good book, but overall I would say this book is kind of like mid tier for me. Maybe I just don't like vampire stories, but I don't know. So um I'd probably give it like a 6. Don't get me wrong, it was still really good and I enjoyed it, but there's definitely other books that have plots that I much enjoy. So
Yeah. Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that. Like the plot to me wasn't it wasn't bad, and like the pacing was cool. Usually, it was pretty like high tempo, moving from like material scene to material scene. Not a lot of filler. Nothing really lagged too hard. It just wasn't really to my taste like the best thing that I've read in a while. But I mean, it was good. It was fine. So I'm saying like a 6.5.
Okay.
I did like how the two plot lines interacted and how they both kind of got tied up by the end of it in ways that made sense more or less.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just wasn't like crazy compelling.
I completely disagree with that statement. I sat down and like could not stop reading. I when we read the first part, I read all of it in the first day, like after our prologue episode. Um, and then the second part, I did the same thing after our second part episode or whatever. I read books for 5 minutes. Like I mean, I just couldn't put it down. I thought that it was kind of cheesy, a cheesy vampire, but it also had a lot of uniqueness. Um, I thought that the concepts were fantastic as far as like, um, you think it's gonna be like a normal grail hunt, and then we find out it's a person, and then we find out that their lineage of their religion, and then on the San Michelle side, you like see his growth and how he becomes a silver. I really really enjoyed the plot. I'm giving it like a 9.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Well, I think you could not have been more right about us needing a palate cleanser, though.
Oh
Like
yeah.
this was such a fun read after reading such like dense and like just stuff that took itself like really seriously. This was
Yeah,
like the perfect
yeah,
book to follow that
Yeah.
up.
yeah. I really like. I enjoyed our first 2 books we read, but like I felt like I had to like really invest um I felt like it was kind of like a like
More of a homework assignment almost.
well, it was like 5 seasons of a series, and then I felt like this one was like a badass movie. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. That makes sense.
That's a
yeah,
good
yeah. I felt like
metaphor.
the first two things were like One Piece, and then this was like a badass movie. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I'm really glad we read it.
Yeah, me too.
I will read it again, and I will most definitely read the second, third books, and
Yeah, I think the sequels to this will definitely be on my like to be read, but
Oh, for
I don't
sure.
know. I don't know if it'll be like crazy high, but it'll be on there.
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, if that's everything, thanks everyone for listening or watching on YouTube. Make sure you share, like, subscribe, or follow on your preferred platform. It really helps
Yep.
the word spread around about the podcast. We have our YouTube comments as always, where you can comment a fantasy question that you'd want us to answer,
Or
And
anything.
or anything. Yeah, if you have disagreements, if you're like, hey, Dylan's the only one who's right about the plot being as high as it should be. Like, hey, we want to hear it.
I would appreciate that. I need,
Yeah, he needs vindication.
He really
yeah.
does. And
Uh,
we did announce last episode that next month we will be reading The Lies of Locke Lamora, and we will have a
yes,
special
by
guest
Scott
with
Lynch.
us. Yeah, by Scott Lynch. We will have a special
Um,
guest with us for that book. And so,
and I just personally want to say about that book, it is one of my, if not my favorite book. Like you will enjoy this book if you can. It's kind of not necessarily long-winded, but there's a lot to it. But like if you can sit down and uh, handle a lot of information, this book is absolutely fantastic. I'm sure Whitson will agree with me.
Oh
Um,
yeah. I think the first book you have to kind of you have to kind of sit down and just like buckle in for the first
yes,
half.
like
And then
sit like
once you're in and once you're
yeah.
sold on the characters, it's just a roller coaster
Yeah,
from like book one to
yeah,
get
book
away
three.
I'm
from
excited for it.
anything that can distract you and like actually invest some time and you will. This is book is like in most of the people whose reviews I watch, it's top 5.
Yeah, I've only
So
heard good things from this, so I'm very excited for it, and I'm also excited for our guest. Have we announced who our guest is yet?
Yeah.
Cameron.
His name's
Yep.
Cameron. He's awesome.
It's just a friend of ours.
It's a friend of ours. We're excited to have him on. So, and then also another announcement is starting next month. We are going to have video on the podcasts. So
Yes.
we're excited.
Beautiful faces.
Our beautiful faces. It's not going to be like a lot of like editing or whatever, but you will be able to, see us as we have our conversation. So some people have commented about that before. So we read your comments, we hear them, and we're hoping that that goes smoothly. So again, thanks for watching or listening, and we hope to see you guys in the next episode.
Yep. Hope y'all enjoyed the book.
3 up, 3 down.